It's 9:23 and I have my souls. They're really light today. Look at this. This is not this is not dark coffee. So, I'm trying something new, and if I like it, I'm going to share it with you because honestly, it's from a local roaster and it's kind of amazing. Um, but that's for another time. So right now I'm just really kind of trying to keep the dirty laundry baskets out of the frame. I'm having a rough day. But I had a request, and this is not the first time. So again, I feel obliged in the best possible way to talk about this. But I had a request from patron Peter Gillet, who's also a Patreon creator, and you should check his stuff out because it's pretty great. But he asked me to speak on long distance relationships. Well, Peter, and everyone else who's asked, they're really hard. They're really hard. I've had, in fact, currently right now, all of my relationships, except for the one I have with my children's dad, long distance. I literally have no one in my state that I speak to. So, all of my relationships are long distance right now, including my familial relationships and my relationships with chosen family. They span the globe. So time differences are a real thing. And it's been this way in my life. This has kind of been my life for over 10 years because I moved to the Netherlands in 2005 and immediately became 9 hours apart from my closest network of people, which at the time was my closest relative and best friend, Sesa. So that was hard and stuff. There was crying, there was frustration. But I think my computer just died, so I have to probably cut this. George, cut this part. So there was crying and it was sad, and that was the first time I'd ever been really separated from someone by that much time for a long time. I knew it was going to be a while because when I left for Europe, I was going to be gone at least 6 months. My return date was 6 months. And I was studying, so I was going to be there, and I was going to be away from this person that was my support system, and her children were my children, and well, they weren't really, but I had cared for them for years, and they were part of my life, and I had to suddenly figure out 9 hours difference in trying to speak to someone who had a life and children to get to school and things. And then I became pregnant, and my entire family was in a long distance relationship with me during my entire pregnancy. So I've had a lot of experience with that. In fact, the father of my children I had a long distance relationship with. He is from the Netherlands. I'm American, and I had to return at the end of my 6 months. At the time, I was also pregnant. We had intentionally chosen to have children. Didn't think it would happen that fast. Thought it was going to happen when I came back to Europe, but that was not to be. So I've had these really intense love relationships with people that are nowhere near me. And in fact, at the moment, my very best friend lives 16,000 kilometers away from me. And it's hard. Relationships are hard. I've rambled for now 4 minutes on just that part. I think I'm really lucky that I've had the opportunity to have long distance relationships because often in my life, just as I am now in Wisconsin, not able to maintain close relationships with people in my actual physical environment. And a large part of that is due to my disability because I'm just not able to leave the house. I can't do the things other people do. I can't stay out long. People are like, oh, I'll pick you up. And I'm like, unless I really know you and know you're going to drop everything to take me home if I need to, I can't risk that. I have to, and if I can't drive myself, I'm not going. So there's a lot of challenges in getting out and having physical one-on-one relationships with people that are in my actual physical geography. And so the internet has, for most of my life now, since early 20s, been the way I connected to the outside world, the way that I was able to get my information. It was the way I was able to leave my abusive ex-partner. It was all of these things. It has saved my life to have these long distance relationships. So they're hard and they require a lot of like introspection. Let's put it that way, because you don't have the same tools that you do in physical space. You can't put your hand on your friend's hand or your lover's hand and say, I have to say this hard thing to you, but I still love you, and have that physical connection override the impulse to feel defensive. And you don't have the hugs after the fights, and you don't have the ability to look someone in the eyes, even if you're on voice chat, like, or you're using video. It's still not quite the same, And so, having experienced my friendships, my intense friendships, both in person and then having to have these like miles between us, there's a definite like pain involved that doesn't happen when you have the person that you're having a relationship with, a half an hour drive away, or because I can get up in the middle of the night and drive to you if I'm sad and need you. But if you're 16,000 miles away, that's hard. So I'm not sure. There was no like specific extra questions on that. I guess my philosophy about it is that like all love is worth trying. And if you feel love towards someone, it's never wasted, no matter how far away you are or how long the relationship lasts. So I feel too, though, with that, there's a caveat that don't take on too many relationships all at once, because especially with long distance relationships, they're like polyamorous relationships in a lot of ways. They just don't have the same safety nets that we typically have in our culture to make us feel secure, whether or not those are real or not. They still give us a sense of security automatically in relationships. That's why some people just like only ever want to get married, because that paperwork and that ring and that commitment and the showing of that commitment means something. And once it's established, there's this sort of like spoken, unspoken rule. Well, that we're sticking together. This is like for the long haul. When you have a relationship with someone in your long distance, whether or not you have a marriage license or any other sort of commitment, there isn't that social safety net, and it's especially difficult because there's still a large faction of the population that thinks these kinds of relationships aren't real. They'll say, oh, in your real life. Sometimes I even say that. It's like, it's all my real life. Like, I'm really spending my actual hours of life investing in these relationships. I'm really spending these moments of my life that I cannot get back, that can never be replaced, in inviting these energies and these people and their lives into my life. And that's a real thing. Your life is your life, however you spend it, whether you're online or outside, it's still your life. So for me, it's always been worth it. Some of those relationships have been really very sad and ended sadly, really sadly, or were, disappointing on some levels. But, here's the weird thing. Like, every person I've ever had a long distance real relationship with, not just like met online and then like met later in person, but someone who I'd actually like spent hours with and spent nights with and held hands with in that sense that you do. Every time I've met them in person, I've been happy to know that they're really kind of who they are. And they really do kind of accept me for who I am at that time. And I've changed a lot in the years. So like there's people that I met 10 years ago I would not be friends with now, and they wouldn't want to be my friends with. But at the time we met, we were who we were, and it was legit. So it felt okay and right. At this time in my life, like like I said, all of my relationships are by circumstance, long distance. It does definitely hurt to not hug as much as I'd like the people that I care for. It's a big, big, sad part of this. For all of you that I know, that I talk to, and even the ones I don't. Like, all of you, every person that's ever touched my life, like, I would love to hug every single one of you right now. Like, maybe not at the same time. Although, I was nearly killed in a hugging accident, and I, at the time, even felt like, if this is how I have to die, then it's not a bad way to go. But I get hugs from my kids, and that's a beautiful feeling that nothing else can replace. But there's also parts of me that need hugs from other people and other parts of my life, and that need nurturing and need connection and need to feel safe. And I want to be able to provide that to the people that I spend time with too, and that's not always possible. So there's a bit of agony in a long distance relationship. But, now that I've already spoken for 10 minutes, but I think that having online relationships or long distance relationships, whether it's via phone or Skype or even just letters, have always had the benefit because they've been going on for like all of time. You know, if you look through all of time, there's like histories of letters written between people that are, you know, tens of thousands of miles away across the world, or, you know, separated by oceans and time. There's always this aspect of that is truly helpful in some ways because it gives you a distance. And so that distance can be painful, like I've just mentioned, for like a really long time in this piece. But it also gives the distance of being able to better articulate maybe what your intentions are. There's less chance for off the handle remarks that may not be taken well by someone who doesn't spend their days with you. That can still happen, obviously, but there's the opportunity for space, not distance, but more presence than when you are, especially if you have anxiety, like I do, when you're faced with someone face to face and you have to have all those conversations in your head about like whether or not you have a booger on your nose or if you forgot to wipe your butt enough that it's not, you know, like yes, I think about these, like I'm like, does my breath smell? Like, where's my mints? And I realize that most of the people aren't going to really care, and if they are really worried about that, then they're not there for the right reasons. There's all this intellectualizing I can do. But when I'm online, people don't have to smell me. They don't have to, you know, be distracted by my physical being. They can be present with my internal space, which is the one I'm trying to share the most anyway. Like, all this is going to change and has, and is going to go away or morph and has, until the day I die. And it might not always be appealing to people, or my physical energy can also, like, me in space has intimidated people, and I can get very loud, and it's all my anxiety, but I can get very like intense, and it scares people. So for me, having an online life has really, and these long distance relationships has helped to give me the space to be my best for the people that I have in my life, and not still share myself, still share my pain and my sorrows and my foibles and all those things with allowing that person to step back and not be overwhelmed by my intensity. And I've been very lucky in the last year and a half, especially. Like, I keep saying this in all of my videos, but it's really true. The people that I'm bringing to me now and allowing in my life and who are showing up are so they just don't, my intensity is intense. It's still something they have to deal with, but it's like, well, yeah, that's you, Kate. We like you because of that. You know, like, that's part of you that we like, because it reminds us that you're feeling, and that's a really good thing. It's important to feel. So I've been grateful and fortunate that the ones that are sticking around and being my friend recognize me as me, you know, and I think having had multiple versions of long distance relationships for over a decade has given me an insight into that like, this is hard and it's painful, and I like cry daily now that my best friend's gone. I'm crying all the time. And there's a sadness, but there's also just this like, this is so worth it, you know? It's so worth it to have had just, you know, it's worth it to have the moments I do. It's worth it to share the moments I do, even if they're in cyberspace or just on paper. Like, some of those are like the most powerful things, you know, and the most important. So that's me rambling for like 15 minutes, guys. See, I had a lot to say about that one. And I don't even know if you'll watch all this, but thank you. Thank you for the question, Peter, and thank you for all of my friends all around the world who keep connecting with me and not giving up on me and not taking my silence as you know, anger or distance, and recognizing that I'm just a broken human trying to love you all as best I can. And I do. I love you so much. I love all of you. I'm so grateful for every person in the world, the ones that challenge me as well as the ones that heal me. All of you are important and vital, and thank you. So thanks especially to the ones that do both. Like, let's tear out the weeds, Kate, and plant flowers. I'm like, oh, okay, that hurts, but let's. So thank you, everyone, for continuing to be my patron and for continuing to ask questions and for continuing to share your stories, which really, guys, thanks for trusting me with your stories and for reading mine. And if you want to read more of mine, I am crowdfunding Pain Eater, which has been pretty depressing as far as what I've been releasing lately, but there's a lot of real joy and beauty in it, and that's coming up next, so stay tuned for that. And please keep commenting and telling me how you feel here on Patreon and on YouTube and wherever you have space to speak. Tell me how you feel because I'm interested. So I love you. 15 minutes, now almost 16 of your life now, you've given to me, and I'm grateful. KateMoonArts.com and IGG me /@ /Kate Moon Book.